Hello, everybody, and welcome to the This or That podcast. We're going to be talking about two films today that I think are linked. We'll discuss whether everybody else thinks they're linked. But first, who am I? I'm Callum Hall. Hello. On my left, I have Ed Brown.
Hello, how you doing?
And on my right, I have Jules Masters.
Hello.
I think we just dive straight in. Our two films that I've picked are 2009's Push and 2008's Jumper. Both superhero film, people with abilities, for sure. I think we can agree on that. So I think the first question is, would either of you say these are similar films? Do they have links that they share? Do they have similar vibes?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say they're exactly the same.
No.
But they are very, 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 very similar, I would say.
Yeah, I think they've got that late 2000s, possibly going after some X-Men money vibe to them.
Yeah, I think directly that is.
They want money. They want money. They saw X-Men do well because it's all mutants, isn't it? You know, I mean, they don't say they're mutants, but in Push particularly, they seem to be mutants. They have telekinetic powers. They had the Scream guys, which are always hilarious to see. I forgot how funny they were.
Well, I made a list of all
So this is for Push and their abilities.
So we have movers, can move objects with their minds. Pushers, control other people's thoughts. Watchers, see the future. Bleeders, emit high-pitched screams that can burst blood vessels. Sniffs, which track people and objects by smelling them, sniffing them.
Yeah.
Shifters, temporarily change what an object looks like to others.
Yeah.
Wipers, wipe memories. And then shadows, who cloak themselves and others around them from detection. Oh, sorry, there's a last one. There's a fucking load of them. Stitchers, heal or unheal people.
And I think that's where some of the issues with the film lie, which is instantly there's quite a lot.
Yeah, too many. My biggest point is that the film is called Push, but technically Chris Evans, the main character, is a mover.
Yeah.
But the film is about the pushers push ideas. They essentially incept your mind to make you believe something that's untrue. So, like, I get it, but my biggest problem with the film is actually maybe the pushers shouldn't be in it because it gets too complicated.
Push and move sounds similar, doesn't it? In my head, I always confused the two because I was like, they're just pushing things with their mind.
I mean, I like the mover abilities, the telekinesis. I thought it's a cheap way to do it because all it is a lens flare and some acting. So I think they sell it really well. I think a lot of the action is good in Push. It's all in Hong Kong, so it's cheap as fuck, which we'll talk about. Cheap as chips. Did not make its money, spoiler. I have a fondness for this film because I watched it when I was young. So 2010, we're talking, 14? So yeah, I enjoyed it. What did you two think of Push? Because you hadn't seen Push, but you've seen Jumper, both of you. A lot more successful film.
What did I think? So I think, like, overall, I think I enjoyed it and also didn't enjoy it. Did I almost fall asleep a couple of times? Yes.
That's a
Sue
given
me.
with any film.
Like, but, and I can see it being the kind of, like, the noughties vibe of it being a kind of cult, nerdy sort of film. But I wasn't interested in the characters. And I think, making comparisons instantly, both Push and Jumper had the wrong main characters.
Yes, I would agree. Especially with Jumper.
Because the side character is so much better.
Jamie
Why would
Bell.
he not be the main character and then he finds this Jumper guy who actually is not very likable? I also don't like Anakin. All the reviews are just like Anakin's. There was like positive reviews saying why there's so many negative reviews, and there's loads of negative reviews saying it's rubbish. And I think I kind of agree with both of them.
For Push.
Partly for Jumper as well, I think. Honestly, I've never seen such a skew of reviews though. For Jumper, there were 1-star reviews and 10-star reviews, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 reviews in like kind of equal measure almost.
Well, Ed, what are your initial thoughts on Push?
The backdrop for the film is incredible.
The world it is in.
Yeah, and the fact it's set in Hong Kong, vibrant colours and a lot going on, but underneath all the hustle and bustle, there's this sort of weird shit going on with all these mutants that have all these different powers. Something that I actually really liked about it was it's like the classic noughties cinema. All the colours are like super overexposed, all the cuts are really janky and weird. But I love that because that's when we all sort of grew up watching films, so it has that sort of like nostalgia to it, I guess, in a way.
It has the Bourne kinetic editing.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. I thought this film was based on a comic book, but it's the other way around. The film was out first, and then there was a limited series.
They did I think they did tie-in novels as marketing.
Yeah, I read on DC Comics that there was like they did like a limited run, a 5-comic run of Push.
Yeah. It's like a prequel. It might be about his dad or his mum or something. I can't remember.
It was almost like the colours of the city sort of lent itself to you being immersed inside a comic book. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So like it kind of gave it that superhero vibe.
Oversaturated, over the top.
Yeah, and really cheesy for cheesy's sake a lot of the time.
The dialogue, especially in Push, lets it down. I think it has a lot of potential. Push. Like George is saying, maybe cut down on the powers.
Don't get me wrong, it doesn't take much to confuse me when I'm watching a film, but there was a lot going on. They don't have a build-up, but she says it all in like you know how there's like the brief history lesson at the start?
Yes, there is a narration exposition at the start of the film, which is always a bad thing, but I think Jumper does the same as well.
And he calls us
all chumps. Yeah, I thought that was so funny.
I used to be a chump, like you.
Just like you. And I was like, excuse me?
So many reviews were pissed off of it for that.
Really?
You don't know me.
You mean a chump film, you chump?
Treading old ground. I thought it was original content we were making.
Yeah. I think with this one, though, all the story threads were sort of
bit all over the place.
Yeah, and like they never really came to a conclusion.
No, especially the I believe it was a Chinese gang in Hong Kong.
It was either Chinese government or Chinese gang.
It was a gang, because then the government agency as well.
The division.
With Jamon Hunso is always fantastic.
He's great.
But the daughter, she doesn't really get anything at the end, but they set up a sequel so much.
But she's in it quite a lot.
She is, and so she should get a payoff.
That's what both these films do, which is try and set up a
sequel.
But the difference, and we'll go straight on to Marvel. In Marvel, from what I know about, because I don't really like them either, but they tend to be like single power films straight away
at the start. Yeah.
At the start, and it goes through, and then it becomes the world is then built. Whereas in here, it's like no, instantly this is how it is. Jumper's less so, but Push is like straight into.
The problem I have with Push is people that can see the future.
But not accurately.
Not accurately, because it's always changing. If you know the future, then you change the future, butterfly effect, blah, blah, blah. It all gets way too complicated. And I think it draws away from a compelling narrative and from compelling characters. The people that can sniff people out, they are countered by shadows. Yeah. So that's good. That's like synergy of like how the powers work.
Yeah, it sort of gives it like a rock, paper, scissors sort of vibe, you know, shadow beat sniff.
Shadows are done dirty though.
Yeah, they're fucking useless. And then he's like, there was one bit, and it's also...
It's Liam McPoyle. Great to see him.
Yeah, when I saw him, I was like, that's fucking...
That's who he is.
Do you not realise? Yeah.
But it's one of the McPoyle brothers. I was loving it. Without a pinky finger.
Yes.
He even made a reference to it as his character saying, oh, well, if they're already onto you, I'm useless. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And it's like, what is the point of you being there then?
Yeah, he's only a counter for the sniffers, but for the seers?
Watchers.
It's only a matter of time.
All their names are pretty bad for their powers. A watcher and a pusher, you could intertwine the powers into being the same thing. Or maybe not a watcher and a pusher. Maybe that's a bad example.
I watched it 14 years ago. I've watched it a few times since then. This time is when I made the link. Oh, he's not a pusher. He's a mover. Literally, because you've got telekinesis. He pushes. He pushes things. 14-year-old me did not make the connection. Because then if the watchers didn't exist, then, you know.
I wonder as well about the exposition at the start, especially for Push, whether or not that was added in post.
Because people were confused. I would say it's probably the same thing with Jumper as well. Although Jumper is actually based on a book, because people who adapt from books like to put narration to be like, oh, it's like a book. And it's like, nah, yeah, but you're making a movie. It's unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, that's also the big thing as well with Jumper, is that Jumper was based on a novel.
A very different tone from what I can tell.
I knew that it was a novel first and then a movie, but I've never read the book. But it's part of a series.
Yeah, there's 4 of them.
Five of them. Is there 5? I don't know. I did make a note of it.
The summary of the last one had aliens in. And I was like, oh, right, this really moves along, does it?
Taking a turn.
The vibe of the novel based on the film is completely different.
It's all heavy on abuse.
Yes, it's heavy on abuse.
Because you get a glimpse from Michael Rooker, deadbeat dad, that he does probably hit his child at the very least. But it's only an implication. You know see anything because you're never really with it.
The implication.
I sort of more so it was just like a kind of wasn't there.
He's just so beaten up by the mum leaving.
And the son reminds him.
The family connections is a connection between the two films because both of the mums are missing. There's government agencies in both of them searching for them. There is a good dad. I put good dad question mark because like he saves his son and whatever, but you don't get any time with the dad in Push because he keeps thinking about his dad. And I'm like, yeah, but I have no idea what his dad was like. So, like, why do I care about his dad? There's no reason. In Jumper, his mum shows up. She was a bad guy and left when he was 5 because it started showing his powers and stuff. So she had to leave. Spoiler alert. The government agency in Push, it appears they have one normie and then they have one with powers.
I didn't understand the motivation of Jaimin's character because, like, he was one of them, but was chasing...
Oh, the guy from Avatar and...
No, the main villain, Jaimin.
Jamun.
Is it Jamun?
Jamun Hunso, right?
Someone said it was Jaimin.
The D is silent, like Django.
All right, there we go. Because he's got powers.
Jamun does have powers. They both have powers, actually, don't they? So maybe actually the guy who got shot did have a power and we just didn't see it.
No, he did have a power. He was blocking everything.
No. The one who got murdered.
Oh no, yeah, they did have powers. They were sniffers. No, one was a sniffer. One was the guy that could touch stuff and go back in time.
Yes, you are correct. So they have powered people hunting powered people.
Which I didn't really. There was no backstory to that. Whereas,
See, if you do one each like heroes, it makes sense because they're keeping them like in line.
but with the Jumper one, I instantly understood. That's why I like the villain better.
Oh, and Jumper, I think they're sick.
You're a natural straight away, and also
Samuel L. Jackson, doing great.
and it's a better setup because I'm like, okay, I get it. You don't like these people because they've got a power.
They're called paladins. I think that's sick. It's such an interesting idea. They said they've been around since the Crusades, and that's what the Crusades were about.
The Paladin were like 12 famous knights or something.
From Charlemagne's court.
Charlemagne's court, yeah.
I like their sticks that they have. I like that electricity running through them messes up their powers. I think that's all very good. I think the action scenes are pretty great. And Samuel L. Jackson looks great. The white hair and the granddad collar, it's just a good imagery, I think, whereas Push probably fails a lot on the imagery because it is just so cheap.
I mean, if we can talk about the director for Push, Paul McGowan. So he did Lucky Number 11, if you've ever seen that. He did a film called The Acid House in 1998. He definitely has like a directing style, which is sick. And like, I'm really behind that way of making films. But I think with this, the premise of the film wasn't like anything that was out at the time. And all the storylines and the characters and all this stuff, they're all really interesting ideas, but they just weren't able to be fully fleshed out, which then made me think maybe this would have worked better as a TV show rather than a film.
I thought both of them would be better as a TV show.
Well, yeah, I mean, the same with Jumper, though. They set that up at the end to be a sequel as well, and it's like...
Well, I found out today there is a sequel to Jumper. There is 2 seasons of a TV show called Impulse, released on YouTube, presumably Red at the time, or whatever it was. I watched the first episode today. It is follows a young girl, Henrietta, nicknamed Henry. It is a sequel to the film, but there's an attempted rape in the first episode.
That's the book.
And that's how she finds her powers. So it's a sequel of the film, but obviously they've gone with the themes of the book, which is heavy, just in your face.
Davy is the character in the book, but in the film he's called David, and that's the first few chapters of the book is the attempted rape at a truck stop, but to Davy, and then loads of like abuse from his dad and stuff. But in the attempted rape is when he finds his powers. They've taken more aspects from the book in the TV show. That's interesting.
But I've never heard of this. And you know, I would say I'm fairly keyed on, or like would see some marketing. It had 2 seasons, for goodness sake.
And all my research for this as well, I didn't come across that. It said there was no sequels of anything.
Yeah, it said like, is there a sequel to Jumper? Is there a Jumper 2? And then
All the die-hard fans on YouTube and stuff and all that stuff hadn't noticed any of it either.
was it any good?
No. It was pretty bad, unfortunately. Like, yeah. We're not here to talk about that, so...
Can we talk about the cast?
Yes, cast of Push first, because I think it's spectacular. You're not getting a cast like this again. All these people together. I mean, I say that. I think at least 3 of these people were in Sunshine 2 years previous to this film, which is Chris Evans, Ming-Na Wen, I believe her name is, who's the voice of Mulan, and the guy in the suit, I believe his name is Cliff Curtis, who is in the Avatar films, but he's in the first few seasons of Fear the Walking Dead, and he's great.
Oh, yes, he is.
Yeah. So you got those three. I would say they're pretty big, especially Chris Evans. Dakota Fanning, definitely on the rise. And then, like we talked about, we've got Liam McPoyle as well, who I do apologise. I do not know your name, Mr. McPoyle. Jamon Hunsu.
He's brilliant.
He's great in everything. Apparently, he's massively underpaid. Says he's broke, like, constantly.
He plays a villain so well.
He looks so good in that suit.
One thing I will say is that he wasn't given enough to do.
None of them are given enough because there's too many.
Yeah, you're right. You're so right. And Cassie, Dakota Fanning's character, she has her own battle going on with Pop Girl. And then Nick has his own thing going on with Carver, who's Jimon Honsu's character. And then the ex-girlfriend is thrown into the mix too.
She's the worst part of the film.
She's so dull, man.
She's the worst. The acting's dull, the character's dull.
It's like the first initial part of when she's in the research facility and she's getting jabbed with that super juice and stuff, and she pops out of there, and then someone rolls that fucking marble down the hallway.
That's Thingy's mum. That's Cassie's mum.
Because she can see the future.
Right. Okay.
She can see the future, so like, because they do bring up in the film, oh, how was she caught? She's so good. I think the implication is that she allowed herself to be caught
to get her out. So up to that point, and I don't think she'd actually said anything.
Yeah, I think that is true, actually, yeah.
Until they meet at the docks, and then she shoots at him.
Yeah.
And even when she shot at him, I was like, okay, I reckon this will be quite cool. And one of the first things that comes out of her mouth is, basically she gets pissed off that Nick didn't storm a government building to go and get her.
And he's struggling to move dice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He is so shit at his powers.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's that thing, like, if you had those powers, wouldn't you just be practicing all the time?
Literally.
I'd be practicing all the time.
Yeah.
Which is what, to be fair, that's what Hayden Christensen does. He's very lazy. He uses powers to move one space across on the sofa.
People get so annoyed with that for a few reviews as well. It's like, he'd be getting atrophy from all this.
Yeah.
He
Well,
is a selfish prick.
I assume it takes a lot of energy to use the powers, but it doesn't come across in the film. But
fuck that. They got superpowers. It's like, oh, it must be so difficult.
no,
not
like,
a chance.
I don't know, like, to use your ability, like, that's how they like make the Flash make sense.
Oh,
you know
I'm
what?
just so tired.
But they don't do that in the film, so it doesn't matter.
That is
If
true.
you don't set it up in the film, then he is just a lazy piece of shit.
But apparently Dakota Fanning has, because she had enough rep, she actually got to create her character more. So apparently she creates him also all the look and like... all
Because
the
she
stuff.
would have done War of the Worlds would have been like...
Man on
Oh
fire.
no, War of the Worlds would be 2007, I think.
So she was big enough at the time to literally dictate what she was doing.
The cast of Jumper, I think, is interesting decisions. So we've got Hayden
I
Christensen.
like it. I like it.
Well, are you a fan of Hayden?
I
Okay,
I
fair
love
enough.
Hayden
Well,
Christensen.
You
let me-
love Hayden
I
Christensen.
think I'm a bit biased because of Star Wars, obviously, but
Everyone hates those Star Wars.
not everyone hates
they're
them.
loved now.
They are loved now.
I've always loved them because they're like the Star Wars that I grew up watching. I mean, I like Star Wars anyway.
Certainly nostalgic for them.
Yeah, but like Hayden, I think he's a good actor.
But all the things I hate about it are his scenes.
Yeah,
And they're very similar to the Anakin scenes.
in my eyes, Hayden Christensen can do no wrong. I do agree that Jamie Bell should have been the main character. The minute he pops up into the film, it gives the film this whole new lease of life. Do you know what I mean? It's like the kind of character that you want in a film who's a bit scatty and a bit sort of, he just does whatever he
energy.
wants. Yeah, energy. Like, you want a bit of energy, and like, I do agree, like...
It is rubbish.
Well, it's not... I wouldn't say it's bad. I'd just say, again, like, you...
I would unfortunately say he is a wooden block.
Yeah,
and
I
he
mean-
is in everything I've ever seen him in.
Because I'd watched Jumper before, but a long time
I think
ago.
I'm just biased.
Well, I think
for
that's quite
Star
clear.
Wars.
Because I'd watched this. I'd watched this a while ago, and I'd forgotten about Jamie Bell's character.
Yeah, he's great in it. Much better character.
I was genuinely like, I don't know if I can watch this film. And then he turns up, and I was like, oh, thank
Finally.
you. Someone.
Because unfortunately, the woman's not good as well.
Well, she's not even really a character.
Well, that's the thing, and that's probably the thing I should say about Push as well. Like, I gave her a lot of shit, but like, women are often not well written. Like, they're just things for the main character to do. Literally, in both these films, they both have sex in just a way that it just kind of happens because they need to be together to have some emotional resonance with the characters for the end of the film when they're in danger, when they get Scooby-Dooed or whatever, and Daphne, and they're in danger and you gotta go rescue them. Otherwise they're useless.
I made a lot of notes about Millie because I felt really sorry for her.
Yeah.
The whole film.
She's lied to, she's gaslit into thinking she's a bit crazy.
She's had a bit of a hard time.
Yeah, it's not good.
In life anyway, excuse me.
Well, someone just gave her a nice little crystal ball and then they die. So maybe
Yeah,
that's impacted
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But she does get to go to Rome and see the Colosseum, and she fucking loves the Colosseum. Like she is into that Roman Empire. Absolutely loves that. She was on that. Also, I just wanted to say, on the crystal ball thing, the snow globe, but the guy that throws it calls him a rice bowl.
So he's called David Rice. He's been called Rice Ball.
Okay, rice ball or rice bowl?
Rice bowl.
Right. Because I was going to say, is that an insult?
So at the start of the film, it is the way the film opens, I believe.
Yeah, it is called him
Which
David.
is
I never listened to them.
the David, the main character, and Millie, they're at school, gives her a snow globe, and then the bully who is with Millie takes a snow globe, throws it on the ice. David goes out to the ice, like frozen over lake, gets it, cracks, falls underneath.
It's a river, isn't it? 'Cause
falls
the river
underneath.
drags him.
And that is what triggers his first jump. And what's really fucked up about it is he lets everyone in that town think he's dead.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks he's dead, including his dad. And yeah, his deadbeat dad, whatever. Wait, no, he goes home with the dad there, but then jumps away. So he makes the dad thinks he's crazy. And the other person he sees, who is Millie, he goes and lets her know that he's alive, but then bounces. So both these people appear to the outside world as crazy people because he is dead in this world. And that is a really fucked up thing to do, to then come back and
Not say sorry, really.
not say sorry, just try and get your way into her pants, basically.
Which he does do.
Well, this is what I was saying.
Which
like,
happens so easily.
Yeah.
It just is
when
weird.
when he turns up in the bar, right?
Stalker, so stalkery.
He's there
when
on
he's
his
there.
one, drinking a bottle of Budweiser, questionable. And instantly when he's in the bar, he's like going to find his old high school sweetheart, and inevitably they're going to end up banging in the end. You know that. Well, the minute he rocks up there, you're like, oh, come on, man. Not even come on, man. It's like, all right, yeah, that's fine. You know that's going to happen. But then he pulls her into all of his bullshit.
Yeah, and basically almost gets her killed.
Yeah, and
instantly.
So what? He takes her to the Colosseum. Pretty nice thing to do, because that was what she wanted, like a dream of hers, and he's trying to be romantic and take her there. Then she becomes an accessory to a crime. Peak, right? Gets ditched at the airport. Peak, double peak. Then she gets kidnapped by the Paladins, and then her flat gets set on fire, and half of it ends up in a river.
Yeah, he does.
Triple
Yeah,
peak.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And
Quadruple
it's like, what the fuck is going on? It's
Where
like,
does the flat end up again? In a river?
in the river, and then it ends up in the library.
Yeah,
That fucking
obviously-
library,
It's obviously
man.
a very impressive job.
Honestly,
but
I hope that library has insurance, because
they are getting
that
water
library
damage.
got fucked up in
Every
that film.
time.
Water damage. Then half a flat was in it. Then
Yeah, I think I've got my notes instantly on this were Hayden Christensen jarring. And also
He's a weird dude in it. The character's weird anyway.
he's not
and then he
likeable.
plays it weird, as I say, like a stalker.
I say, well, the other thing that's similar between these two films, I think, both are done in by the fact that they don't know where they're pitching, because they are both
They're
sort of
going for
12A,
mainstream,
14 plus.
yeah.
So they're all not PG, but around that kind of teen thing. So they have to have limited sort of violence and stuff, but they're seemingly quite violent things, especially for Push.
There's a fair amount of blood, yeah.
But
in
they're
Push,
still
because
rated as 12, 13, 14.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
now 15 on here for some reason.
Yeah, I feel like I must have seen one of these in cinemas. So, yeah, I bet Jumper, seeing as it made money, I probably went to see.
Yeah.
Although I don't know. I honestly don't remember. I would watch some good sequels of these or some reworks or something, but realistically, it's never going to happen.
But I enjoyed Jumper more than I did Push.
Yeah, me too.
But I think it's because, from what Jules said earlier about user reviews from wherever you read them, you have the bad reviews contradicting the good review. You know, and it's some people. It's a Marmite film. You either love it or you hate it. There's no in between.
Well, I actually on the reviews I found a huge scale. That's what I found weird. There was love and hate for it, but there's also lots of people that were like medium film.
Right.
Like,
okay.
So there was
Which is what I would say. I'd put Jumper around maybe a high 6 to a 7, and Push probably 5.5.
But I think Jumper gets that just because it's got a bigger budget, so it's got some better special effects.
I like the jump effect. I like that it creates these riffs, and I like that you can a scar. They do say scar. I think, I like Rift better personally when it comes to teleporting. But I like the effect. I like the way the powers build because he's lazy. He uses his power loads, but he doesn't actually know how to use them. Whereas Jamie Bell comes in and he's like, "You're really bad. Like, stuff, I can do these incredible things." When he uses his push ability to gain speed and momentum to punch Samuel L. Jackson. So I think that's so clever. That's such a clever use of it.
Or to push the car out of the showroom.
Yeah, I can push it. I can jump anything that's moving.
And that's actually a good point because that's like the clever. That's like the nerd aspect which people like is like the clever use of a power, not just like how do you? I'll just fly up and be like have a good time. Like it's clever. Whereas Push, none of it's that clever. Yeah. Like it's like the floating guns is the cleverest it gets, and he doesn't even use them very well.
No, because he's bad. He's bad.
He floats it so he can go around a corner, and then doesn't go around the corner.
Well, that's because he's gone to talk with Jamon Hunsu
and Victor. Who's the character's name? Not the actor's name.
And Victor is very good at being a mover. So they just
deflecting bullets and all sorts.
So literally, all they do is talk until Victor has control of the guns. So Chris Evans doesn't, which is the problem with both of these films. Both of these films end with miraculously the main characters becoming more powerful than people that clearly are very skilled with what they do,
having been shit
for no reason.
Yeah,
for no reason.
But
Chris Evans becomes super powerful at the end.
In Jumper, Griffin, Jamie Bell's character, and David are both selfish pricks.
Yes.
They're so selfish and they only use their powers to benefit themselves. It turns it around a little bit on the Paladins being like, well, yeah, you're not really helping anybody. You're just fucking shit up. Like you're robbing banks and stealing cars and, you know, like you're criminals essentially.
Yeah. Proving them right.
There's a bit, proving them right. But also there's a part in the film where David is watching TV and there's some people trapped in a flood. And he just emotionlessly turns the TV off.
Yeah, the line
and it's
is,
like, you could go and help them.
The news reports are like, it's looking a bit dire out there. Can anyone get to these people and save them? And he's literally just eating whatever he's munching on. And then he pisses off to London.
And shags someone.
To go shag a bird.
Yeah. And then dips.
And then dips on the bird to go to Australia to surf.
And then goes to Fiji because there's no waves. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
and also he gets found out at the bar because he does.
And then has lunch on.
because Jamie Bell's there.
And then has lunch on top of the Sphinx. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I do like that though. It's like Jamie Bell's spending all the time. He's got his cave. He's doing all his research, but he does.
It's called a lair. Actually. A lair. What, you fucking loser?
Did I set that up or not on purpose? I don't know.
I have a penthouse suite.
But he goes.
New York City.
He's fucking loser.
You live in a cave in the desert.
For some reason,
it's got suck up Wi-Fi though.
he's got a good cave.
He's playing his 360.
But he goes to Westminster.
David gets in the way. You know,
gets in the way of the game.
Shield. Oh yeah.
He brings Paladins right there. Brings the girl there.
Sorry, Jules, go on.
Anyway, yes, thank you. But he goes to Westminster for some reason and stands on Big Ben, and then goes to a bar around Westminster for some I don't know why he's doing that. And then Jamie Bell's also there. Why are all these jumpers hanging out in Westminster?
Jamie Bell is English,
so he's in Westminster.
He's playing him like his accent.
Maybe he's there for recon.
So I don't mind Jamie Bell being there because it's like, I'm just, chilling.
You've got to meet.
I'm chilling from where I'm from. But like Jamie Bell talks about meeting loads of jumpers, whereas David's never met another one.
anyone,
in
and
his
he
life.
thinks he is the only one.
Yeah, which I always find is weird.
I think there'd be
when
more
they
news
do that.
reports of things where jumping is happening or something
Also,
like
he lives
that.
in New York City. You're telling me there's not another jumper in New York City? In New York City.
David is way more selfish, I think, than Griffin.
Well, Griffin's fighting a war.
Yeah.
He's going out and killing these paladins, so he has got.
But then he
shit
is.
on his
But
plate.
then he's also like pretty corrupt in his
Yeah,
own
he's not
way.
good. He's not a good dude at all because he's willing to kill. And it's as all people who have like a reasonable justification, they're always let down because they're willing to kill civilians. It happens with every fucking superhero show where like someone's slightly socialist or whatever, and it's like, yeah, but I kill women and children. So,
But I
am a
think
bad
he
guy.
was a great sidekick until he got sidekicked into a pylon in Chechnya.
Yeah.
But then it's one of them where he.
They've
I
got to
kind
get
of-
rid of him.
I
though.
understand. I think I have.
for the plot to move on.
I have more compassion with Griffin's story than I do with David's
Well, he's
story.
about to like open up, and then David the dickhead steals his shit. Like he's literally about to open up. Well, he does. He says that the revelation is that because he says, "Oh, my parents weren't around earlier in the film." Actually, no. Samuel L. Jackson came to his house and killed his parents.
Yeah.
And he was about to say that to
damn it,
David,
Samuel.
but David's not listening because he's only
And then
thinking
he goes,
about Millie.
my mum did this, and my dad's a twat, and whatever. And then, but it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like, you know, you got two people from broken homes, so parents aren't around, and usually in the real world, that would lead to some sort of, you know, rebellion.
Angsty teenager.
Yeah, rebellion in some sort of way, whether that be, you know, drugs or drinking or
Blue hair.
getting into scraps or expressing yourself. yeah. Or blue hair or expressing yourself in a weird way. Or not a weird way, sorry, in whatever way you feel you want to do it.
Cut that.
Apologies.
But with them, I feel like jumping is their addiction. So they're like that's how they're basically living the life that they felt like they were denied by going
yeah.
to all these places that
It's a sense
they,
of freedom,
like, yeah.
because they feel trapped in these
Yeah.
abused households or whatever, in these
But then
traumatic experiences. So they find this freedom and they use it however they want, and they don't look back because they're running from their past.
Yeah.
And Jamie Bell essentially is David. If David goes too far, you know, that's kind of like the lesson of Griffin almost.
But it's also interesting because it's more realistic in terms of like if somebody normal got those powers, like what would they do? You know, it's not your stereotypical superhero movie of good versus evil. It's like if you had these powers, you would probably be a selfish prick too.
yeah.
But I find that quite boring.
Yeah,
I
but
want to see the interesting stuff that Jamie Bell does.
but you
and I
got to
wanna see
think of
more
it of like
interesting stuff.
of when it came out. Like came out in 2008, so like there wasn't
but it's still
really
clever.
anything like that.
You can still do
No,
stuff
but I'm
that's
saying that
interesting.
like, there wasn't many other films like that when that came out.
There was quite a few, surely, superhero films.
Well, they were.
No, but I mean that,
that's
like,
when they were
painted-
making these.
but, like,
these
painted
kind of
superheroes
films. You know,
as
like
dickheads.
Hancock is the same time as well.
And there is quite a lot of the cast that are part of future and also past. Like the dad is Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Michael Rooker, yeah.
And of course, like
Chris Evans,
John-
Captain
Chris
America,
Evans'
and
favourites, blah,
Jimon
blah, blah.
Hunsu is in like
Guardians of the Galaxy as
he's
well.
in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then he's in like 3 different DC things.
Yeah. And you got the X-Men that all come out.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is certainly an era where they're throwing stuff at the wall, which is kind of good in one way, because you get these weird films, you get these interesting ideas. Like, I don't think teleportation. Everyone points to like Nightcrawler and X-Men 2 and the what do they call it, Banff effect, which is like the mist. But I think this is super interesting. I think imagery wise, both films are let down. Apart from Samuel L. Jackson, I think he stands out, and like I feel like he would be the most interesting character to like make fan posters about, like make like the imagery that's associated with the paladins. Like things need to stand out to be seen. So when you have like in Push these government agent people who are just in suits, and then the Chinese mob who are just in kind of worse suits, like they're wearing jackets and stuff. Like, it's hard to.
I thought the Chinese gang seemed quite amateurish for people that
Who
I
are
thought
the
would be
head
quite
of-
professional and
Yeah.
like very good at what they do. And also, when they raid that building, the daughter knows where they are, meets Dakota Fanning outside, knows the building, and then, you know, Chris Evans has sex with that woman, and then, you know, 12 hours later they do a little raid in the morning.
Yeah.
What kind of... why? Why are you waiting? It was rubbish. And also, what I didn't understand about the premise of that one is the reason why Chris Evans went after and helped Dakota Fanning was because she had a flower, but also there was a suitcase with $6 million that was the government's. And that's why she was. That was how she was.
Yeah,
trying to
that was what I got confused
Why
about
is
too.
it
It was
got
like
$6 million?
I was like, they're chasing money, or are they chasing this syringe, or is the syringe worth the amount of money that they're chasing?
The 6 million was a sign or whatever, wasn't it? It was like wasn't it a billboard? It was a billboard, wasn't it? It wasn't actually the suitcase.
I'm
with
pretty
money.
sure it said it was the suit. She said the suitcase has got $6 million in it, and then with that you can pay off all your debts from the gambling, which actually has no come up and
she
see
did
that
say
there's
that.
no.
Yeah.
But then it turned
But
out
I think
to be
she
the
read that
syringe.
wrong. Like, that's the thing, right? She didn't actually watch.
But of course, I mean, because it doesn't make any sense.
Correctly, she saw these things, which is why it's an annoying power to put in, because
It's too complicated.
It's too complicated. You've got to be really clever to pull
And for
that
a
stuff off.
12A, it's going to be way too complicated to get that in and make
You've got to
it.
keep it super simple. Like, if that was the only power in it, maybe like Inception. Inception is
That's
the
what I
one
was gonna say, like
idea,
Tenet and all that kind of. There's
Yeah.
one thing which they
one thing that you got to keep track of.
This is the thing, though, with both of those films, they have essentially the same plot,
Yeah.
I would say. But
Why I chose them.
well, yeah, well,
This or that.
It's this or that. It's this or that.
Or that
I would say, well, gun to my head, I'd say
floating gun to your head.
floating gun to my head.
If pushed.
If I was pushed into what
If I had to jump to a decision,
if I had to jump to a decision and like after,
I'm making myself do it.
sniffing everything, I would say
How does he do it?
yeah, sniffing objects and stuff. I would say, not just to clarify, I would say that the only saving grace of Push is the location in where it's filmed and the soundtrack.
right? I do. Yeah, when we get onto money, I'll talk about soundtrack because it's very obvious where money goes in films sometimes, especially when you're comparing and contrasting like we are. It's so obvious the money went on licensed music versus get someone in to compose some crap. I thought personally,
What for for Push? Sorry.
I thought it was pretty bad.
I do like the guerrilla style camera kind of in the city though. I think that is. I don't mind that at all. Apparently, when they were filming
Bit
it,
too shaky.
they found it difficult because Jaimin was on loads of billboards in like underwear adverts. And so
really?
they kept having to like cut scenes and stuff.
Because he was in the
That's
background.
that's so funny. Imagine that was just his character's like side.
Just like,
I do some side
pointing at a billboard, just like, wait, look at that.
Did you think the government wages cover the bills for these apartments and stuff? Hong Kong's very expensive. Brilliant.
Calvin Klein's.
I think it was actually a Calvin Klein.
Of course it was.
Of course it was. He's a classy bloke.
Comfy.
Very comfy. They are actually quite comfy.
See, with Push, I'm like, oh, I'm in for this, especially after Sunshine, because Sunshine is such a fantastic film. 3 of the people are in it. You know, they're working together again. And I did see this film at the time, so maybe I am, you know, a bit biased and keyed into that kind of sci-fi world growing up. But yeah, I'm up for all these people. I love Chris Evans. I think he's great in a lot of stuff. He does a lot of. He's such the stereotypical noughties man. In the noughties for, you know, the Fantastic Four, Cell, all those films. You know, he's got frosted tips. I think at the start of Fantastic Four, and then he goes to a buzz cut. He does both the most naughtiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
You know, I like Chris Evans, Jamon Hunso, great. Bing Na Wei, great, because she's in Stargate Universe as well, which I love. The best Stargate there is. You know, I like all these people. Dakota Fanning went on to just get better and better. And then you got Jumper, who has Samuel L. Jackson in it, basically.
Yeah.
From
That's
my
what I
perspective.
mean. On
Beyond
paper, you're like... The
Well,
minute-
but I didn't know Michael Rooker at the time because the films he were in was like slasher, more horror-y, the James Gunn of old kind of stuff. So I wasn't watching that kind of stuff. I didn't know who that guy was. He was just the... you know where I know Michael Rooker from? Probably is The Walking Dead. That's probably where I've seen him first, which probably is around the same time, actually. But he just played, back then he's just typecast as the hick, the redneck, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame because I think he's got the chops.
He's a good actor, for sure.
He's got the bloody chops.
But yeah, do you want to talk about money now?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I think it's especially interesting when you watch these films as well and you know the money that's spent on them. You can just see it. You can just see why one film's better than the other. So we'll start with Push. Push had a budget of 38 million. 38 million to make a movie. I mean, nowadays, I assume it's like impossible, basically. But like back then, 38 million. It's all on location, I believe, in Hong Kong, as far as I could tell by the credits.
Yeah, it is.
The only thing that's green screened is the car chases. And
Because it's so congested.
and all that
So
stuff.
that's how, in one way, that's how you do it cheap, because you go to Hong Kong, you do it cheap. That's why loads of Hong Kong action films are there and stuff. But this cast on 38 million, oh my goodness. What was Chris Evans making in the last, couple
Just
of
after
Avengers
all the
films?
Fantastic Four as well.
Captain America is 2 years after this, which is crazy. But on 38 million, it made 48.9 million. And from what I've heard on the internet, it's basically you double the budget for marketing or whatever, give or take, blah, blah, blah. There's not an exact science for it. And that's how much you need to break even.
Well, the box office takes 50-50 as well of box office receipts. So it's only split 50-50 with the production house.
Yeah.
So if you make 40 million on box office, you only make 20 million as a production house.
Yeah.
20 million goes to the people who distribute it.
Yeah.
So,
They've
made a loss.
big flop. Big old flop. But as I say, 1 out of 3 of us had watched this at the time, and I'm not even sure I saw it in cinemas. So not really a surprise.
Well,
is
apparently
it?
in the opening week, it made 10 million.
Which on a 38? No,
enough.
it's not good.
You want to make your money back on
On the
it.
opening week, not weekend, just the week. Oh my god, yeah. If it was a weekend, maybe it'd be. But then that's everyone that's going to go see the film, basically.
Literally, yeah.
I mean, it's a fifth of the people that are going to
There
see
was
the film.
there were some people who did some interesting videos on it and saying there was more competition for Push than there was Jumper. Around
2009. So this is
2009 for Push, yeah.
2009 for Push. So this is a year after Iron Man. So Iron Man came out the same year as Jumper, which I think is interesting. So that
much later in
So
the
that
year.
means Thor, maybe, or Iron Man 2 came out the same time as Push.
But much later in the year. So it was released. These are both released within 6 days of each other in February, but 1 year apart.
Right.
And then it does.
February is not a good time to release films either. That's when you drop films. Well, unless you're going for the rom-com, which maybe is what they tried to do with Jumper.
But this came out with lots of other rom-coms, and there was Coraline. So there was a guy that was putting out, and he was saying this film, Coraline covers this demographic, and then there was a rom-com that covered this. There's Watchmen that covered this, Slumdog covered this, Gran Torino covered this.
People only have so much
and there was
money.
only a tiny group of people, 18 to 24-year-olds that were actually probably the demographic that would have watched it.
Well, Jumper's budget was 85 million, so double, more than double, yeah. And it made 225.1 million. That's good return. That's a good return on investment.
Opening week, it made 27 million.
Yeah.
It's not bad, is it? What's that, triple? Yeah.
85, triple.
Yeah.
Triple his money, so that's good. From what I read, money-wise, today, if you made a film for that much money and got that much money back, there'd be a sequel. There'd be a sequel no matter what. But the reason Jumper didn't get a sequel is because of all the negative reviews, which is so crazy to me because that is just, I don't think that's a thing studios even bother with anymore.
No, it's all about
as long as
numbers.
it makes money and it gets to the niche that you're looking for,
They
who
just
gives
do
a
it.
shit about reviews?
Yeah, for
Who
sure.
gives a shit? And to be fair, I like it to an extent because you would get more creative stuff, I don't know, say Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
I do think it's done well as far as I can tell, but it's not my cup of tea.
No, not me.
But it's doing well. It's getting its 4 seasons because it's getting to the audience it deserves to get to. Whereas, like Push, just did not get to the audience it deserved.
No.
But you can see the difference in the money, and as we alluded to, the soundtrack. There is no soundtrack for Push. There is no songs. Jumper, packed full. Packed full of emo, punky,
Naughty's bangers.
crap, I would personally say.
No, I fucking.
It does set the scene. It
love
sets the environment. It sets the scene.
soundtrack.
I think it's a few years late for some of that, music.
It's also a nostalgia
personally.
hit when you watch it back as well.
For someone like Ed, yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure,
I
yeah.
did. I hate
I
this.
enjoyed it. I thought the music was great. I loved
yeah.
it. I don't want to get too. Actually, fuck it. I do want to get too nerdy about it. Pop Girl. I swear that her dialogue was
Dubbed.
dubbed.
I actually thought a lot
yeah.
of them were dubbed in Push, actually.
Well,
now
'cause
that,
when they
now
were
that I remember
badly,
it.
like, dubbed
Yeah,
badly.
when they're in
It's
the
dubbed in
market,
a,
it sounds weird when they're walking by all the fish that then get.
Yes,
bleeded
actually, I
out.
do remember that. Actually, yes. I am wrong, yes. I forgot about that.
Obviously, they do get dubbed. Like, but
Yeah, that's-
it,
yeah,
but it's
common.
one of them where like the whole point of dubbing people is to make it
Clearer.
to seamlessly integrate it into the film so that you'd never ever bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
Whether it was like a music video.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And like
And then you have the oversaturation, which is very music video of the time as well.
And all the cuts and stuff, like when he's playing dice and he gets pissed off and he's like, gah, gah, and he's like moving around and you're just like, what's happening?
There's also no comeuppance with that dice thing. Like he gets kicked in the face and then get chased, but then nothing happens.
No. Well, because
not
he
enough
owes
time.
money to the Chinese mob, though.
Exactly. But
That's
then,
who he owes money to, who are chasing him.
oh, I thought they were. Is that why they were chasing him? No, they didn't get that.
That's why they're.
Wait, what?
No, that
No,
can't be
that's
right.
fucking
There's no
bollocks,
way
isn't
some
it?
like little dice guy in a box then just calls this massive mob who are like full of these powers to go and.
Well, I just assume.
'Cause they
I
wouldn't
just
have- they
assume if
wouldn't have
you're
played
running
gambling
I
with
just
him.
assume if you're running illegal stuff and this is the gang that runs the city, it's basically a racket.
No,
Because those
Yeah,
guys
well.
wouldn't. Because they knew he was a push mover.
because the
Because
daughter.
and they wouldn't have allowed him to be gambling and moving dice around. They would be like, you can't have that.
Yeah,
guy
if they
gambling."
knew who he
Well,
was.
he was so low level until he met Dakota Fanning.
If they were
Like,
gonna
he
do
was
that,
on
they
their
should have
radar.
made it much more
Yeah,
clear.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But that is a problem with these films, like especially with Push.
Goes
If you-
nowhere.
It goes nowhere, but it's also like it doesn't explain stuff because it's like, oh, you should really be getting this, and it's all kind of interesting, but some of it doesn't make sense. And like some, like are just rubbish.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
Rubbish.
I mean, if we go back to budgets and box office, though, I do have the numbers for Iron Man, which is the big one to compare it
of
to
the year
Because that's the
that
franchise
year.
starts.
of 2008.
of 2008. Yeah.
So Iron
it's the big
Man,
one.
which is like this, it's an independent film first off because it's Marvel Studios. It's kind of their last, it's their last chance to do anything because they were bankrupt like all the time in the 90s. Iron Man had a budget of 140 million.
bloody hell.
So they went. all
I
out
did
on
not
it.
really. Yeah, they went all out.
We're literally the last hurrah, isn't it?
Last hurrah, they would have had to literally the company would not have existed anymore.
Liquidated, mate.
Because they had already sold off all their assets anyway. They had sold off their biggest things. Like originally, Iron Man and the rest of them were like the B cast. Like that's what it was called.
Yeah.
But 140 million, way above what I thought they spent on it. Personally, I thought it was much lower. It made 585.8 million.
bloody
Iron Man.
Nora.
And you know what? Deserved it. It's
much
much
better.
better
It's
film.
fucking
It's so
brilliant.
good. It's
Like,
so
I
good.
don't-
I didn't even rewatch it for this
I'm
because
with-
I know that film so well because I've watched it so many times.
Yeah.
Because it's so fucking good.
See, I'm with Jules in terms of I'm not really a massive fan of Marvel or superhero stuff in
I
general.
watch Iron Man every day. I'd watch that.
But Iron Man, there's only a select few superhero movies that I really enjoy. Iron Man is one of them, and then you've got like Dark Knight, and I know they're DC, but you've
I
got
still think they're shit.
You don't like The Dark Knight?
Dark Knight. All right,
You're a nearly 30-year-old white man. You're supposed to love The Dark Knight with all your essence.
cheesy.
Oh my days. Get him in the comments, everyone. Get him in the comments.
get him.
Yeah.
Don't hold back.
There are certain films that are just good films regardless of what they are. And
Yeah, for
Iron
sure.
Man.
But I think like that does speak volumes of how the Iron Man film is way more simple than these two films.
Yeah.
And
That's how you start a franchise.
But I think that exactly.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Jumper's close to it, though. I would say, like, Jumper's pretty close.
It's just that
It just overcomplicates it with Millie mostly.
yeah.
It doesn't give it enough depth. The characters don't have enough depth. So Push overcomplicates it. Jump almost undercomplicates it with just not having any depth to the characters. Whereas Iron Man actually does have depth. I mean, I don't like Iron Man 2 or 3 really, but Iron Man 2 is all right. But Iron Man 1 is actually a good one because there's depth to it. And like, there's like a whole war crime element, all that kind of stuff is like, it's interesting and it's actually a good film.
Well, they did a lot of rehearsing for Iron Man. That's kind of like, as far as I can tell, a lot of the difference, and obviously where some of the money goes, is that these people are rehearsing together. They're getting chemistry together. You got chemistry tests, readings and all this stuff to get the right people on board. The casting is obviously fantastic. I assume a lot of that budget went to Terrence Howard, first one in, first one out for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, who appears to have gone crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's on Joe Rogan.
I've not seen
Joe
it at all.
Rogan's about shit, but doesn't matter. Robert Downey Jr. is great in it, but I believe he only got 200 or 500 grand for it.
Really? The tables have turned.
The tables had turned. Yeah, after that film, he was like, "I will never be paid this little
I'll
ever
be
again.
having all
Your
the money."
entire franchise relies on me now."
Yeah. It's unfortunate for these two films as well because Iron Man starts probably the biggest franchise ever.
I mean, yeah,
It is, yeah. It's
yeah,
gotta
the
be.
biggest film.
I mean, and
franchise
so
ever.
many of them. But that's the thing. I think the different, like, I always, as a child, would watch TV programs and films and be like, oh, I would like more of this, and like wanted more. But they never seemed to produce more. Like, it was hard to watch. Like, I remember like Avatar and stuff like that. It was actually quite hard to watch what was there, and like I wanted more. And Iron Man did that. It's like I want to see more of this world, and it's the same with those like franchise builders of like Pirates of the Caribbean was like I want to see more of that. And I don't think they even intended for it to be a franchise because they did 2 and 3 together. But Jumper and Push were made, it feels to me, to be franchises, and that's what kills them.
That's what kills them.
With Jumper and Push, it's a lot of half-baked ideas that never...
Push is half-baked ideas, and I think Jumper is half-baked characters.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I also think if you got elements of both films and put them together, you would actually make a better film.
Yeah.
But and also the main character swap.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about like say Marvel is that they literally have 100 years of history of like characters. I mean, not for the specific characters, but like Marvel and DC have been doing this shit for a very long time. You have a lot to pull from.
Yeah.
Whereas, yes, Jumper is based on a book, but like Push is an original idea, and I feel like it does earn points for creativity at the very least. Like, otherwise you get nothing original, which is which you could argue we're in that state now because no one wants to make these films and not get a return.
It's a huge risk.
Yeah, because it is such a huge risk, and films cost so much money now. Whether you think they deserve that money or not, the reality is they cost this much money.
Yeah.
So to make something like Push, imagine getting all those people back and paying them what they, their agents would push now. Yeah,
I mean, Chris Evans
insane.
would get the whole budget of this film.
Yeah.
Chris Evans wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well,
He
Chris
just
Evans
wouldn't do it.
didn't do Captain America because he had done this. He had
Fantastic
done
Four.
Fantastic Four. He'd done 2 of those.
Well, apparently-
And The Losers, I think, is, I don't know, to 2010. So that's another comic book
He wasn't
film as
actually
well.
originally for this. Apparently, Channing Tatum was originally supposed to be their character.
Yeah. And in Jumper, Eminem was...
I did see that.
Eminem
was supposed to be...
Eminem was floating around
Steve.
for loads of acting gigs back
it?
in the noughties.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
Well, because he's
weird.
just done the...
He's done 8 Mile.
Yeah. The director was initially wanted Eminem, and then he saw Hayden Christensen.
So that's another link for the films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I did not
There you
know
go,
that.
man.
There's always more links than you think,
Mind blown.
That is madness.
I mean, going back to the whole point of this conversation is this or that.
This or that. Which one? If if you're only allowed to let someone watch one of these, which one would it
I
be?
don't care enough about either of these films to fight for them in a passionate
Yes,
way.
but once again, if there was a floating gun to your head,
If there was a floating gun to my head, I would probably go with Jumper rather than Push.
I think even though I had a lot of fond memories of Push, I would also say Jumper.
Just because it's not as long,
It's tighter. It's a tighter story. It just is. It's tighter. It makes more sense.
And that tightness is borne out by the fact that we've discussed, I'd say, all the characters in Jumper, and we haven't discussed all the characters in Push. There's like that curly-haired woman that was going on. We haven't discussed the mum in Jumper,
Stitch.
but she's.
We haven't talked about Stitch.
I don't even understand
Stitch are healers basically in Push, and they do it in a grotesque way,
that's
which
what
is
I
quite
mean.
interesting.
What was her motivation? I didn't understand.
about-
She hated Chris Evans.
It's because Chris Evans shouldn't have been the main character. It should have been Dakota Fanning, because it's Dakota Fanning's mum that's
Friend or
orchestrated
something, yeah.
everything.
But she hated them, but also helped them.
Yeah, I didn't understand.
She
it.
was like
she was all over the place.
She was like,
Once again, it's for plot, isn't it?
but also like to drive it through, but not really. And also the whole Chinese gang element, and like, and there's loads of characters there.
Yeah, it gets lost. Whereas in Jumper, it is the Paladins who are interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept.
And you don't need to explain every character that comes from the Paladins. They're just goons that are getting.
So there's 9 different powers in Push. Whereas in Jumper, it's only jumpers, which is like way more easier to follow. But with 9 characters, or 9 like.
There's
you
9
can't see me, but I'm doing 9 with my fingers.
There's 9 sets of abilities, but there are 3 groups in the films who all have people with differing abilities. So to keep track of who's who and what ability is who, I did think it was interesting that it seems to be somewhat hereditary, because the Chinese gang, the main guy was a screamer, and then his 2 sons were screamers.
And then the daughter was a watcher.
But then you don't know about the mum of that family.
And it would seem women are the watchers. I believe all the watchers are women in the film.
Yeah.
Apart from Jimon.
No, he's a pusher. He's a pusher.
Oh shit! Yeah, sorry. No,
But
yeah.
actually, talking about the pushers, the scene,
He's a pusher.
The best scene I think is where the love interest of Chris Evans does the stuff where she implants a memory to one of the goons in the bathroom.
Yes,
to kill. Which I thought that's the cleverest bit of the film, because it's like, you don't tell him to go and kill them. You
shoot
plant
his
a memory in there of him.
To Corey
killing his
Stoll, who
sister
is
or
also in
something.
the MCU,
And then does it.
we didn't mention that one as well.
And that's a clever part. It's like you're using your power in a different. When you don't just say, "Oh, push." Like, how does the pushing work? You're implanting stuff.
And
into
that she
them.
had to take her time, because he knew it at the start. So then she had to be clever and go around the conversation to get to the point where he let his defenses down enough to get into his mind and push the idea.
And then Jaimin does the same thing with the guy with the bullet and said, "Oh, you remember unloading the clip so you can do the shooting."
Jamon.
Jeez.
It's going to be embarrassing if we are wrong.
It is going to be embarrassing, which I really hope comes to pass. I can't tell you how strongly I want that to happen. But then he does that, and at that point I think, oh, there is some interesting stuff going on. And then it continues to be shit. And apparently, the bamboo scene with all the scaffolding?
Yeah.
Apparently, the way they did it was they were supposed to all collapse, but they could never get it to work, and they just didn't have enough money to carry on doing it, so it just partial collapse, and that's it. Because when I looked at it, I did think, it's not that impressive, really. It's kind of a part of its collapse. So it's impressive on the bamboo.
I do like some of the fights, though, and I like the way... Because I'm a big defender of it. I'm a big defender of,
You are.
Well, I say I'm a big defender. I will shit on a bad film if it wastes my time. Whereas I'm sure for you two, you felt like your time was wasted with Push, and I did a little bit because
not
I've seen
really.
it.
No, I wouldn't say it was wasted. It was interesting. It was interesting to watch. I know Jules is
Say
disagreeing.
the same thing for Jump.
Oh, really? We'll jump for as
If
well.
you want to go on this or that, I'd say neither of them and just watch Iron Man instead. I won't be drawn on either. I'd say don't watch
that's
either.
why I'm not throwing Iron Man into that, because obviously Iron Man wins. So
Yeah. Obviously.
I just don't watch either of these films. Don't waste your time.
Well, I would say if you're going to watch one, watch Jumper, and if
I
you
think we can all agree watch Jumper out of the 2.
yeah.
You got to pick one.
You're wasting time though.
Wasting my time if you don't pick one.
You don't pick
It's
one.
point of the podcast.
I mean, yeah, I would probably, if you said you have to watch one of these films,
Floating gun to your head.
I would watch Jumper again.
There we go. I mean, who has watched Push will be the interesting thing. Is everyone going to go, yeah, I've seen Jumper, obviously I have. I've never even heard of... I mean, had you even heard of this film?
Nope. I've never heard of Push.
It's insane.
Yeah, and there isn't that much noise about it, even going back, which is interesting. Some of the YouTube videos on it are like 13 or 14 years old, so it's quite funny going back on it.
You wouldn't steal a car.
But you would steal a film.
You wouldn't push an image into a man's mind.
Genius.
You wouldn't wipe my
And also,
memories.
interesting tidbit on Push, when he injects the soy sauce into him, I thought that was a bit suspect, so I looked into it.
I did the same thing.
It appears that actually if you do inject soy sauce, it probably would kill you.
Well, if you inject anything that's not meant to be, because it's probably got air in it as well. So if you get an air bubble, you're insta dead, right? Because it gets to your brain or whatever.
Pretty fucked, yeah.
And then someone said apparently they used to eat soy sauce until they died, some rich Chinese people.
Because it's like a sign of...
They would take a high dose of salt to commit suicide.
Oh, interesting. So does everyone have any like interesting bits or closing statements before we wrap up?
I've used quite a few of them.
Yeah, you've read all your notes, everything done?
So I actually looked into the rankings of these films in terms of amount of money. So I did a little bit of analysis on this. And if you take these two films, in the first quarter of 2008, Jumper was number 7. If you were to go into the first quarter in 2009, Jumper would be number 7 again. And then exactly the same thing is the same for Push. It came in at 28 in 2009 in the first quarter. And if it was in 2008's first quarter, it would have come in at number 28 as well. So it's like films are making exactly the same amount of money in both years.
Oh, I see exactly what you're saying. I got it first time and we did not re-record that. That's interesting that it would be exactly the same place.
There was something about competition and stuff, and I was like,
because they're the same thing.
I mean, I think we said all we're going to say about this film. Let us know what you think of these two films. Do you know these films? Do you know Push and not Jumper? It's most likely the other way around. But yeah, please let us know what you think. Let us know if you think our opinions are stupid. Let us know if you think we should do another one of these. I mean, we're going to regardless. We're going to do a few. See how it goes. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.